And the space is also adapting rapidly to where what the accountant does and can offer is entirely different than what it was 10 years ago. Right. And also that we're legally allowed to market and all these other things. Right. And so like to me, the biggest thing you can do, and I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, is start with trust, build trust and everything else. I do have a question though, and it pertains to the more top of funnel stuff. Like we've talked about nurturing. We've gone down and looked at, the conversion stuff. Now let's go up to the top as far as how are we finding the people that might want to work with us? Because if we're only relying on referrals, there we go, then like what other ways can we actually find people? Initially, like what are some of your top of mind things as far as where to meet my prospect? And then before we actually start building trust.
Excellent conversation. Glad you asked. So I think you have to take a step even further back than that. I think before you can identify what the best ways are to pull leads into the top of your funnel, you have to figure out who do you want your leads to be. So you have to really clearly define your ICP or ideal client profile. And this is where so many accounting firms struggle. In fact, I have been working with this lovely woman for probably 2 years now. And she has been really trying to figure out who her ICP is. And she reached out to me earlier this week and she's like, I got it. This is what it's going to be. And she had the most beautifully defined, perfect ICP, and she's going all in. And this is where I think a lot of firms struggle is they want to be, when you'll ask them who's your ideal client? Well, all business owners. Wrong answer. That's not your ideal client. Then you're going to look like noise. You've got to niche down. You have to niche down. So that's first, right? Then once you identify who that client is, it gets a lot easier to figure out how you're going to find those leads. It can be something as simple and basic as networking, right? Which some accountants love, some accountants don't love so much. You could move into things like paid ads. You could do cold email. You could do some SEO campaigns. You could use lead generators, promote lead generators, those types of things. And when we're talking top of funnel, this is where I always coach people to have a lot of different fishing poles in the lake, because you want to be touching your ideal clients everywhere they are. So if your ideal clients are on Instagram, you need to be there. If your ideal clients are watching videos on YouTube, that's where you need to be. But, it's once you've got the content in place to nurture and the content in place to prove trust and to gain trust, then it's worth putting some money out there to, whether it's, some sort of a paid ad strategy, whether it's Google, whether it's Meta, whether it's, another strategy. And good old fashioned sales networking works really well too. The key is pull those.
Go on.
Sorry. One last thought. You have to be prepared that when you are pulling those leads into the top of the funnel, that you've got the rest of the funnel built to nurture and close them.
Yes, 100%. What you said about niching, I completely even forgot as a topic here. I just want to briefly say, like, there's so many people on the internet that go, you need to niche. And it's like, no, I get it. But like the true meaning or reason behind niching down, finding that specific ICP you want to target, isn't because like your business is like now structured easier. Yes, that is a side effect. It is 100% because you're able to resonate with the specific problem of the person, and they're already knowing that it's built for them. It can be the exact same service, right? Like you can do accounting for every type of business, but just knowing from a front standpoint, this is accounting services specifically built for food service restaurants. Now I, as a food service restaurant, know immediately that this is built for me. They understand that I run inventory all the time, that I have new employees cycling through all the time, that I have all these nuanced problems that an e-commerce site online doesn't have to deal with, or a SaaS B2B business doesn't have to deal with. And so that is from the consumer mindset, how they choose to purchase is through the qualification of themselves. Like, is this built for me? Like, is this something that if I bought would impact my life specifically? Right. And that's where we're at as humans, our beautiful, selfish beings is that.
It's true. Humans are wired at the primal level to solve their problems. Like when we feel pain, we want to relieve that pain. It's just natural, right? So when we feel like someone understands the pain that we're in and gets it and knows how we feel, we're naturally going to gravitate to that type of a person or a business. And I think you're absolutely right. Case in point, we only work on marketing strategies and sales strategies for accounting firms. And I wouldn't really feel like I could have an impact on businesses outside of the way that I can for accounting firms, because I understand the business very deeply. And that's what I also coach with these accounting firms is stop and think about the businesses that you enjoy working with the most and what are the ones where you feel like you can make the biggest impact.
Yes.
And those are the ones that you need to really pull into your identity, like your ICP. And I think that, and Brad says this a lot too, sometimes, and in most cases, if you niche down correctly, it's going to make your market bigger ultimately.
As far as the types of clients you bring in?
Yeah, because you're going to be
Yes.
more attractive to more people than if you're a generalist, you're just noise.
Yeah, this is a great point, right? Like when you're a generalist, your potential to seize a percentage of the total market, TAM, SAM, SOM is a massive term in like venture capital, PE, that kind of world, right? And so your total addressable market as a generalist is the entirety of the population, or at least the entirety of business owners, right?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you niche down, it is significantly easier to own a larger portion or a larger percentage of your total addressable market, or the market that you want to service as that niche down, which gives you more. And the reason you want to do that is because it gives you more leverage, more power, more trust as the individual that owns that specific niche. And so if you niche so far down where there's only 300 potential companies that really fit your firm, you can charge crazy numbers to them because it's specifically designed for them. And you unlock services and advisory and all these other things for their specific business models that don't exist in any other. And I think that's kind of what you're saying there, right?
It's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, you can charge a lot more because you're not looked at as a commodity. You're looked at someone who's very specialized. And I mean, think about it. Everyone knows your family practice doc is not going to make as much as your cardiothoracic surgeon who's very niched. So, I mean, it's the same principle applies when it comes to accounting firms. And it's so much easier to figure out what your top of funnel lead strategy is going to be when you've got your ideal client nailed down.
And I will say it is like on paper, very attractive to go generalist, right? Because it's like, well, I can do this service for everybody. But when you start to build services on top of what you currently do and you step into those advisory positions and you're looked at as a thought leader from these companies, the complexity of the service offering that you're providing goes up dramatically.
Yeah, exactly.
And so in order for even us to support a firm owner, right, it's the complexity of that support is vastly different than the complexity of support if we were to go support some like random SaaS startup or whatever. You know what I mean?
Architecture
and so like
or something that we don't know the model. Right.
Yes. So when you niche down in that way, you're able to formulate your services to then ultimately support more through tangible value.
Exactly.
And that's when you can actually charge more, just to put it plainly. Right?
Yeah, 100%. So I have a question for you, Drew. So once you get through identifying your ICP and you've got that nailed, what are some of your favorite top of funnel, like some of the most successful top of funnel strategies you feel are available for accountants today?
Yeah, it's a nuanced question. The short answer is there's a sliding scale of repeatable and trackable systems and the highest impact and effective but least trackable system. So what I mean by that is if you're looking for understanding a direct return on your investment through means of understanding your customer acquisition cost, your cost per lead, how long somebody's in a sales cycle and everything else, you have to go with the repeatable channels that have been proven for many years that are directly correlated to a spend, which is ad spend. Right. And so you're looking at your meta video ads, you're looking at your pay-per-click or your, when somebody searches on Google and they search best accounting firm in my area, like that's the first click that shows up is that sponsored one. Like those are the most repeatable and trackable channel.
Right.
And so to me, it's not a matter of what's best, quote unquote. It's a matter of what do you value in your marketing at the scale you're at. And so if you need money right now, obviously the best way to do that is by creating repeatable channels because if I spend this much, I will return this much in exchange. And paid ad, if you're doing it correctly, does have that, right? But then there's the other side of it. It's the top of funnel things that build more trust. They're not as trackable. You aren't able to attach a cost per lead on every specific thing. You're not able to attach a customer acquisition cost on every lead. But maybe the sales cycle is shorter because there's trust being built because you're doing a webinar. Maybe you're writing a book that compounds into years and years and years of purchases that you aren't actually able to track, right? And so it's very hard for me to say an answer to that specifically because the nuance of it is how trackable do you want it? One.
Exactly.
And two, how effective do you need it to be over the course of a 10-year lifespan versus now. Because I know if I spend X amount, I'm going to get X amount, right?
I love that you said that. So, and I think that the reason this is such an important conversation for accounting firms is they're accountants. And the thought process is I should be able to track the ROI for every dollar I spend towards marketing. But based on what you just said and what I believe also, if you're looking for results, you're not always going to be able to guarantee an ROI. And sometimes if you've got a really good multi-pronged marketing strategy in place for 2 years, you're going to have a massively higher ROI than during your first 6 months or your first year at all. There's a big difference there. And I think too, the other thing that's worth mentioning is I've worked with a lot of firms when it comes to paid ads, and there are some things that really need to be in place before you can guarantee the success of paid ads. And some of those things are obviously you have to have, good content in place. Your messaging has to resonate, right? It has to land correctly. So you've got to have your entire content strategy in place. When you layer in paid ads, then there are other things that you need to think about. For example, we worked with a firm that they were not having success with Google paid ads, and we started looking into it. Like, what is going on? It looks like they're getting all these leads because, you can see which calls connected and how long they connected for. But what happened was they weren't answering their phone. It was going into this complex phone tree. People don't want to sit at, when they click on an ad, they don't know you from Adam. They're not going to give you the benefit of 60 seconds of their time or 2 minutes or whatever to go through a phone tree to try and speak with someone. And they certainly aren't going to leave a voicemail. So there are other things that are really important when you're going to put money into some sort of an ad strategy if you want to expect success from it. And you have to be prepared to implement these things if you want to get the maximum results.
I love it. I also think, and this is contrary to a lot of what a lot of people believe. I think a lot of people share a similar sentiment when it comes to marketing agencies, as they've likely been burned before.
Oh, sure.
And so there's nasty feeling as far as, okay, I need to market, but there's a marketing agency direction that I go where I'm one person out of 100 other clients these people have. They don't give a shit about me. They don't. And so I think that feeling is probably arguably the most valid feeling that I've ever experienced. Like, I used to run a marketing agency. I know that side of it. And what I've learned is marketing agencies tend to not take accountability for the results, right? Because if you don't manage the full funnel of something, you can't actually see the end result from it.
Correct.
And so you can start to point fingers and blame. And so when you have a fractionalized, if that's the wording, fragmented system of, I have a salesperson, I have a marketing person, I have a paid ad person, I have somebody that helps me with content, I have this over here. Everybody points fingers at other people.
Yes.
And truly the only way to track it is by getting deep on the numbers, analyzing things, and pinpointing the exact point. So what I believe with marketing agencies is the easiest way for them to retain customers is by pointing fingers. And that's arguably the worst thing you want to do. And so I think by taking accountability for the full funnel from top of funnel all the way through conversion, yes, it might cost more for a firm initially, but you're actually able to be held accountable as a firm or as an agency to say, I either did what I set out to do or I didn't.
Right.
And I take full responsibility and ownership of that result. How do you feel about marketing agencies versus some others? I have distaste with marketing agencies. This is a revenue architecture firm. It's entirely different than that.
Yeah.
Of course, you're going to have actions within it that contain marketing. But what are your thoughts across the board?
Yeah, I love that question too, because I think you're right. Every firm I've ever spoken with that has experience with a marketing agency has been burned. Usually it's because they're a number or they were promised something that didn't happen, or in a lot of cases, proper expectations weren't set at the beginning and they expected something that was completely unreasonable and the agency did not give them appropriate expectations. So there was just a misalignment there. I think it's important to take it a step further. So my background is sales. That's really my passion. And because I think I have this high bias for execution and action. So I think that when you blend sales with marketing, then you get more of a revenue architecture because you're touching all pieces of the funnel. So I agree with you. I think that it's really important to understand. I think from a firm's perspective, you want to know that you're working with someone that cares about what your goals are, understands what your goals are, and then will give you honest advice and strategy on how to achieve those goals. And in a lot of cases, it may not be what you expect to hear. If you come to a firm like ours and just, you've got a website and the messaging doesn't resonate and you don't have, that there are other things that are broken in the funnel and you you want to just start running ads, we're not going to say that is necessarily the best thing to do. I think a good revenue architect is going to look at all areas of your pipeline and your funnel, figure out what's broken, align that with what your goals are, and put a strategy in place. And it's going to look a little bit different for every firm. But the other key is a good revenue architecture firm is going to be able to show you where and how to automate as much as you possibly can.
Yes. 100%. And I think on that, there's a layer of importance of marketing firms will just say yes, 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 yes. But to say no because you know that it's going to waste somebody money is single-handedly the most important thing you can do for somebody. And yes, you're trading a potential revenue or a potential client or whatever that may be, but that trust building of if we're not aligned here, this isn't going to work is so much more important on a 10-year time frame than it is on getting a little bit of extra money in now for a business. And I think that goes across the board for all of them.
Right. 100% agree with you. I think the most important thing is to understand what the firm's goals are and then to be very candid and honest with them on if that is what you're looking to achieve in revenue, then I will help you with a strategy on how to get there because this is what we do. But it's really kind of us driving the bus, right? It's us saying, here's what to do versus a firm coming and saying, I want to run ads because I need new leads. Or my favorite is we have a really aggressive goal this quarter. We're behind and we need to get here, but we only want to do this. Well, it doesn't work like that. So I think it's definitely okay from our perspective. We have no problem saying no. From an accounting firm's perspective, I think you should want to work with a firm that's going to be very honest and set expectations from the get-go and then be held accountable to those expectations.
And look, if you're an accounting firm and you are trying to transition away from the commodity of the annual recurring 3-month headache and into advisory, we actually built a blueprint for the entire nurture flow, everything else. It's completely free. Just go visit our website and we'll also hop on a call, do the whole thing there. Yeah. I think this was an amazing conversation, Janelle.
So fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Looking forward to doing it again.
Me too. Thanks, Drew.